The great lie of the men in suits. Listen up, guys. For over a decade now, those slick-suited executives in Detroit and Europe have been feeding us a massive, carefully constructed lie. They sit in their air-conditioned luxury boardrooms, drawing up multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns just to brainwash you and me. They want us to believe that if you want a real electric vehicle, a machine that can flash charge, survive a brutal winter, and will not turn into a useless brick in a few years, you absolutely have to take out a second mortgage to pay $80,000 or even $100,000. They blame inflation. They blame the sky-high cost of raw materials. They look you dead in the eye and tell you that the stupid, heavy curb weight and the extortionate price tag are simply the unbreakable limits of physics in the modern auto industry. But I have spent my entire life crawling underneath these machines. My hands are permanently stained with grease and metal shavings. So I am going to give it to you straight. That is an absolute scam. It is a dangerous hallucination. They built to protect their massive profit margins and to hide their lazy, pathetic incompetence in core engineering. Because today, we are tearing into a machine that just officially dropped a thermonuclear bomb right on top of the West's rotten pricing model. We are talking about the BYD Song Ultra. And let me get this out of the way right now. I am not going to insult your intelligence by whining about cup holders, leather stitching, or the size of some flimsy infotainment screen. We are going to strip this vehicle down to its bare molecular structure. We are going to look strictly at the raw thermodynamics, the electrochemistry, and the pure industrial violence of a supply chain that allowed them to cram aerospace-grade hardware into a family sport utility vehicle. And the part that has the entire Western auto industry waking up in a cold sweat right now? The price tag, $22,800. Buckle up, because I am about to show you exactly how the West just got permanently stripped of its right to price cars ever again. The disruptor reveal under the chassis. Grab your flashlight and a creeper, because we are skipping the shiny showroom floor and going straight underneath this beast. When you look at what is hiding under the floorboards of the Song Ultra, it proves a terrifying reality for legacy automakers. While European and American engineers are still struggling to manage basic thermal runaway of their outdated heavy battery packs, Chinese engineers have actively rewritten the limits of vehicular physics. The traditional guys panicked a few years ago. They rushed out severely compromised, retrofitted 400-volt architectures built on ancient combustion engine chassis. They just bolted heavy batteries to platforms meant for gas tanks and called it a day. That is the definition of engineering cowardice. What we are looking at right here is the E-Platform 3.0. It is a native, uncompromising 800-volt electrical architecture designed entirely from the ground up. By doubling the voltage compared to your standard Western electric vehicle, they have the current required to deliver massive power without melting the car to the pavement. Less current means they can use significantly thinner cables in the wiring harness. Do you know what that does? It creates a massive reduction in unsprung and sprung weight. And critically, it drastically reduces resistance-based heat generation. You cannot simply force massive amounts of power through a vehicle's veins without instantly vaporizing the copper unless you build an 800-volt foundation like this. This is not a family crossover trying to be eco-friendly. This is a highly calculated, heavily armored disruptor that treats energy transfer like a weapon. They stripped away all the mechanical dead weight that the old-school manufacturers have been relying on for a century. We are not looking at a car anymore. We are looking at a rolling supercomputer bolted to a high-voltage power plant, and it is here to completely eradicate the competition. Deep dive core physics and hardware magic. Let us dive strictly into the raw physics and electrochemistry, because this is where the Western engineering gets absolutely humiliated. The crown jewel of this powertrain is the brain driving the rear axle motor, and it comes down to the absolute mastery of power inversion. Major European and American luxury brands, even the ones charging you well over $80,000, are still cutting corners by relying on cheap, traditional silicon-insulated gate bipolar transistor inverters. BYD, however, packed the Song Ultra with next-generation silicon carbide power modules. Why does this matter to a mechanic like me? Because silicon carbide has a much wider electron band gap than standard silicon. At an atomic level, this structure allows the transistors to handle exponentially higher voltages, switch at significantly faster frequencies, and operate at extreme temperatures without thermal throttling. It reduces electrical switching losses by an astonishing 70%. Because the silicon carbide inverter operates with such extreme microsecond precision, the electric motor spins freer, generating maximum torque while bleeding almost zero energy as useless heat. The system achieves a staggering peak conversion efficiency of 99.8%. But that is just the inverter. Let us talk about the absolute limiting factor of any electric car on the planet: internal cell resistance. When you force massive amounts of direct current into a traditional Western battery pack, you face the brutal reality of joule heating. The temperature spikes, lithium plating occurs on the anode, violent dendrites form, and eventually you get a catastrophic chemical fire. The West solved this by surrendering. They throttled the charging speed via software, forcing you to sit at a charging station for 45 minutes. BYD refused to surrender. They utilized their second-generation blade battery and a proprietary flash charging protocol by optimizing the lithium iron phosphate chemistry at a molecular level and massively increasing the cooling surface area. Of the elongated blade cells, the battery casing itself acts as a structural heat sink. This architecture is engineered to absorb a mind-bending peak input of 1,500 kilowatts. The mathematical result? This battery pack surges from 10% to 70% state of charge in exactly 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You can mathematically add hundreds of kilometers of range in the exact time it takes a Toyota driver to pump a tank of gasoline. And for the guys living in the freezing cold who think electric vehicles are useless in the snow, BYD engineered a high-frequency pulse heating system. It literally uses the motor's stator coils as an inductive heater, sending rapid alternating currents to generate instantaneous internal heat without rotating the wheels. Even at negative 30 degrees, your total charging time only increases by 3 measly minutes. The cold weather degradation argument has just been completely and utterly pulverized. Unmasking supply chain greed. Now, let us talk about the disease infecting the legacy automotive industry and why you are paying triple for inferior technology. The Western automotive model is fundamentally broken. It is a bloated, lazy system. This bloated system is built on overlapping greed. Legacy brands like Ford, General Motors, and Volkswagen rely on buying parts from a massive web of Tier 1 suppliers. They buy their brakes from Bosch. They get sensors from Continental, their battery cells from LG Chem. Every single one of those external suppliers needs to make a profit. So, you have profit margins stacked on top of profit margins at every single step of the assembly line. By the time that pieced-together Frankenstein of a vehicle rolls onto the dealership lot, the retail price has been artificially inflated to cover the salaries of a dozen different corporate boards. And what do you get for that premium price? Brute force engineering. When a Western company wants more range, they do not optimize the aerodynamics or the inverter efficiency. They just slap a massive, inefficient half-ton battery pack to the bottom of the chassis. This forces them into a vicious cycle of heavy compromises. They have to use heavier suspension components, oversized heavy-duty brakes, and thicker chassis rails. You end up with an electric sport utility vehicle that weighs an astronomical amount, ruins the handling, and destroys your tires in record time. Look at the benchmark for this segment. Did the combustion engine Toyota RAV4. It weighs around 1,700 kilograms. BYD utilized cell-to-body structural battery design, where the battery is not just dead weight. Bolted to the floor, it is the literal floor pan, providing torsional rigidity to the frame. They built a fully electric, high-density, 800-volt vehicle that is actually lighter and stiffer than its gas-powered rivals. They officially reversed the weight penalty of electric cars. The legacy automakers have conditioned you to accept compromise. They conditioned you to accept that a vehicle has to be heavy and expensive to be good, but that was just a smokescreen to hide the fact that they simply do not have the manufacturing capabilities or the supply chain to replicate this level of integrated first principles engineering. Behold, the brutal financial blow. This is where the nightmare becomes real. For the guys in suits, the brutal mathematics of the total cost of ownership and their total vertical integration. You see, BYD operates completely differently from the rest of the world. They own the entire board. They even mine their own raw lithium out of the dirt in South America and Africa. They process their own active chemicals. They design, etch, and bake their own advanced silicon carbide microchips. They wind their own high-density motor stators, stamp their own ultra-high-strength steel, and they meticulously write every single line of their own code because they control the entire global supply chain. From the raw dirt in the ground all the way to the dealership floor, they can achieve what Detroit and Stuttgart confidently declared was mathematically impossible. Let us look at the slaughter. Take all of this aerospace-grade engineering. Let's review what we just talked about. The state-of-the-art thermal architecture, the incredibly expensive silicon carbide inverters, the algorithmic anti-rollover vectoring chassis that processes lateral g-forces at the speed of light, the pulse-heating cold weather system, and the 5-minute flash charging capability. If you slapped a German luxury badge like a Porsche, an Audi, or a Mercedes on the grille of this exact vehicle, the manufacturer's suggested retail price would easily shatter the $120,000 mark. Consumers would line up to pay it, praising the German engineering. But because of China's terrifying, impenetrable vertical integration, the pre-sale price for this absolute technological marvel translates to roughly $22,800. Let me repeat that so it sinks in. They are selling next-generation 800-volt flash charging supremacy for the price of a stripped-down, entry-level, 3-cylinder combustion hatchback in the West. The European and American car industries are currently in a state of blind panic. They are losing billions of dollars on almost every electric vehicle they build. Their only defense mechanism left is running to their governments crying for massive tariffs. They want a 100% tax just to keep the superior competition out of the country. But here is the brutal reality that a wrench-turner like me understands. Tariffs do not alter physics. Tariffs do not make American or European cars any better. They just force hardworking citizens to pay double for inferior, outdated technology just to protect corporate profit margins and slow down the inevitable. What is your choice? This launch is not just another vehicle release. It is an extinction-level event. It is the exact historical marker where the legacy auto industry looks in the rearview mirror and realizes they have not just lost the engineering race, they have been entirely and permanently priced out of the future. The era of Western automotive dominance, built on arrogant assumptions and pieced-together supply chains, is officially over. The rules of the game have been permanently rewritten, so now the choice is entirely up to you. Are you going to keep defending the old guard? Are you willing to walk into a dealership and willingly pay 3 times the price for a heavy, slow-charging dinosaur just because it has a legacy badge on the hood? Or are you ready to accept the mathematical and physical reality that the future has already arrived and it only costs 22 grand? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments if you would buy this engineering masterpiece, or if you are still blindly loyal to the old-school brands. Do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for the raw, unfiltered truth about the automotive industry, and I will catch you guys in the next video.